So, the way that this all went down was I progressed from a form of frustration based around watching the world around me not really know how to control their shit and really being frustrated with everyone else's shortcomings as opposed to my ability to mentally handle, control, contemplate anything. I just didn't understand. I didn't feel anyone was a peer. I didn't respect anyone. I didn't respect anything. And I would say in one sense I've moved even further away, where respect is definitely not the right word for it. But I guess I'll explain how that went down. So, as I started removing these restrictions on things, these judgments I had on things, I saw that there were things that couldn't just be switched overnight. They were too deep. They took a lot of time. And in doing so, I had to formulate systems that would allow me to change, to remember to change. And I did this by focusing my efforts on reacting. So, when something would happen to me that would light me up, that would cause me to react emotionally, I would catch myself and I would shift into a neutral space. And then I would find that energy within myself that was reacting, and I would put it outside myself and send it back to where it was. Because essentially any time that I was reacting to something was somebody else's energy that was in my space. So if someone puts their energy in my space, and my energy goes into their space, which happens in most social interactions on a regular basis, and that person goes and does something that's out of my integrity and out of my alignment with what I want to do, a part of my energy that's in their space is also doing that. And I can feel my energy vibrating in a way that makes me very uncomfortable. And so because of that, I would get upset. And this is how everyone gets upset about things constantly, is your energy is everywhere. And it's constantly doing things that you wouldn't do. And it's out of alignment with you. So because of that, you have frustrations, pains, angers, hatreds, loves. Also is another one where someone can take your energy to an elevated vibration. And so it became this game, a system, another system, of going through and finding out what the energies were, where they were, and removing them. And in order to do that, I had to take full responsibility for my reality. And what that means was, when I watched a person trip across the street, I had to recognize that I was the thing. I caused that person to trip. When someone I was interacting with didn't understand the way that I was speaking, or they thought I was stupid, or any assortment of things, I had to realize that I was the one creating that. And some people understand this, some people don't. But the way that it works is you put limitations on things. For example, one of the things that I had to work with was family stuff. Parents, right? Everyone has mommy and daddy issues. I didn't have much, but I can definitely say I was raised. And in being raised by human beings, I was given perspectives that weren't mine, especially on the opposite sex. I think men as a whole, generally, in large majorities, have a subconscious idea that women are inferior to them, and they're stupid, and all sorts of different things that are very old ideas. So because of this, you're constantly manifesting that. A woman could do a barrage of things, and the one that would stick out to you would be the one that would match your definition about how a woman is. So, in order to shift this, I had to figure out how. And this was a big one. There were other big ones, but this is a great example because I think everyone can relate to this. Men can relate to this because they were programmed that way. Women can relate to this because they get treated that way. And women also treat men in the same way. So I had to figure out how this worked. And essentially what I saw was karmically and energetically, our mom and our dad, our parents, are a physical manifestation of our pictures or ideas of our masculine side and our feminine side, which we have within us. And so these aspects of our lineage have been passed down through generation to generation because they're us. And they keep coming back until we change them. So, and once you change it in yourself, you watch it change in your parent. You watch it change in your grandparent. You watch your lineage shift forever in both directions. And if you don't believe me, that's INTJ. It's very relevant. But so it became this thing where I started to forgive people, and I started to lift people of their restrictions. And I was always the smartest guy in a room. I always knew more than anyone about anything. I was always the best. And I realized this was because I had created everyone as inferior. So I started looking at and healing at my relationships with people. And I would perform a very simple meditation, but very effective, where I would go into meditation, and then I would see the person that I put limitations on. One example was my mother, and I would see her walk up to a stage. She would stand in the middle of the stage. She would take a bow, and then all the different roles that she had played for me based off my limitations, she was relieved of. Those limitations left. I thanked her for an amazing performance, and I updated her into an equal and saw her in her highest light, her divine spirit that was capable, by all means, of at least achieving what I was experiencing in my reality. So I did this with both my parents first, huge thing. Grandparents, sisters, friends, enemies. And then as I went through, I watched it shift, and it shifted a lot. And all of a sudden, I went from being in a segregated world where I was a super genius and everyone else was just like really ridiculously had no idea what was going on, to now people are coming up to me and having conversations with me about detailed systems and pattern recognition and anything. Everyone was awakening, and obviously this is a time period for it, but I think even I created that for my reality to line up perfectly with all this, to be used as permission slip to do this. So as I started doing that, my life has shifted dramatically to a new framework, one where now I'll go and I look for any time that I'm limiting anyone in any way and will lift the restriction. And I will watch myself shift into a parallel reality where another version of that person exists, a higher vibrational version of that person exists, and it will take me into a higher vibration as well. Because after giving up the personality, so to speak, kind of just become one with anything that you unrestrict. And it's a reintegration of all energy. So that's been what I've been working on now for the past couple of years. And I can just see that I'm reaching this point of singularity, so to speak, where as I release all these restrictions and these judgments and these resistances, the world around me is flowing like a river, and I have no desire for it to go in any specific direction. And the only joy and fun that I have, which is the most joy I've ever had, is to choose how I want to experience it as it's going on around me without any judgment of my choice, without any restrictions on myself. And that has been the greatest joy I've found. And